welcome back to another video! This week I'm going to be talking about my thoughts and opinions and experiences regarding dubbed anime versus subbed anime, but really quick before I get into that topic I wanted to really quickly just talk about what I'm drawing in this picture and how it's connected to this topic. So my good friend DarkPetal16 on fanfiction.net, she's writing a story that's dedicated to me, and it's called Apex Predator, and it's a Naruto sort of and Hunter x Hunter crossover. Hunter x Hunter, like the X is silent, my bad. The premise behind the story is that she wrote this other story called Shadow's Son, where the protagonist is a little girl that was reborn as Naruto's twin sister. Her name is Miwako, and then later on stuff happens and now she's reborn into the Hunter x Hunter universe. And then she takes the Hunter exam, and she's best friends with Kurama the Nine-Tailed Fox, and she makes friends with Gon and Killua, and just all the shenanigans happen. And I've started reading a couple of the chapters that she's already written. I don't think they're posted just yet, but I really like the story. I really liked Miwako as a character in Shadow's Son and all that stuff. And so what I'm drawing is, I don't know if it's the book cover as much as just art for it. So we have Gon, and in the middle we have Miwako, and then we have on the side Killua. So that's basically what I'm drawing, and it's the first time I've actually sat down to do a really intense drawing in a few months. I spent almost 6 hours on this illustration because it's all coloured and line arted, and it's 3 characters and all that. So this is the first time I've spent this much time on a drawing in a while. So I was very excited to dive into it, and I really like all the characters and all that stuff. But so the topic at hand, dubbed anime versus subbed anime, is related to this because there's a dub for Hunter x Hunter out, and I watched Hunter x Hunter, the 2011 anime. I watched that around 2014, and obviously I watched subbed in Japanese, and I really liked it. The first couple episodes were super difficult to get through because they were kind of slow and boring, but then I had this friend hounding me no, promise me you'll get to episode 5, promise me that if you don't like it by then I'll get it, but promise me, please watch until episode 5 or 6. And I was alright, he was really persuasive. So I got that far and I was just okay, this is picking up. It's actually starting to seem kind of interesting. And then mind blown, Hunter x Hunter turned into one of my favourite shows. So yeah, and now freaking 5 years after I originally watched it, it comes out with a dub, and I'm just alright, that's kind of odd. Usually these days dubs come out either simultaneously with the original or within the year of the original starting or ending or whatever. So Hunter x Hunter is kind of, but it also makes sense because I feel Hunter x Hunter is one of those shows that is really, really good, and in certain circles it's considered it has the reputation I think it deserves, but then other people just have no idea about it. And then with the dub it allows it to kind of reach more people, and it's sort of if the anime doesn't have a dub, is it really all that? Even if even if you're not a dub watcher, if you know that there are more Western audiences, if it goes on, I think it went on Toonami or Adult Swim, which is why it got the dub or something. But anyway, point is, I watched a clip, and then I tried to watch an episode of this show dubbed, and I just couldn't. It was so bad, it was so cringy, I couldn't take anything seriously. Kurapika's voice was just and then Hisoka and Illumi, I really couldn't take them. The clips that I watched were kind of from 2 very different points in the series, but they were just so bad, I really couldn't watch it. And then I just I was talking to DarkPetal16 about this, and there are a couple shows that I actually rather prefer the dub. There's other shows that I don't mind the dub, but then there's the majority of shows, especially if I've already watched them in Japanese, that I really, really, really can't with the dub. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit, and I also wanted to talk about because I used to, as a kid, not really enjoy reading, which is really weird looking back on it, because now reading fanfiction or just reading in general is my favourite thing. But I didn't like reading. So back then I was when I was until maybe 11 years old, I was the kind of person that only watched an anime when it was dubbed, and I was a really big anime fan already at the time. But it was hard for me because at that time there wasn't many things that like there weren't many anime that got like translated over, and then it was hard to find them online and all that kind of things. And I lived in Brazil at the time and France before then, so it was hard to get, like, we didn't have Toonami or 4Kids or stuff like that, so it was like kind of difficult to find anime to watch. So of course I got really good at finding them online and stuff like that, but I spent a while only watching dubbed shows until eventually I kind of found myself running out of dubbed shows to watch. Like, I honestly couldn't find any. So when I was 11 to 12, I started picking up a couple shows that was like, alright, I'm sure, 100% sure that I'm gonna like this show. It was like typical like shoujo stuff probably. I was like, yeah, I'm 100% sure I'm going to like this show, and I'll just watch it even though it's subbed. And I remember starting out, I would actually have to pause what I was watching so I would get a chance to read the subtitles, which is hilarious to me now, because now if I have the option, even anime, I watch it at like 2 times speed. Like, there's some anime streaming websites that let you like watch it 2 times speed. Like on YouTube you can watch stuff at 2 times speed, and I usually watch most of my videos on YouTube at 2 times speed. So even anime, like, of course now I've got a better understanding of Japanese, so that also helps, and I can read a lot faster. That also helps. But yeah, it just amuses me that when I first started I was really reluctant to pick up subbed anime, and then even when I did pick them up it was like a challenge for me. And then in my glorious, brilliant, super intelligent 11-year-old mind, I was like, you know what would be cool? If I learned Japanese, I wouldn't have to read the subtitles. So there I started kind of like every single 11-year-old anime fan, I started kind of dedicating myself to try to learn as much Japanese as possible. And then eventually I stopped minding the subtitles, but I'm still at the point where I do have a lot of like Japanese vocabulary that I can understand, which is also kind of cool. But yeah, like, ever since I really started getting into subbed anime, I really can't get into dubbed anime, barring a couple exclusions. So Dragonball Z is one of them that I've watched. Like, first time I watched Dragonball Z was in Spanish, and then I found it in English, and then I watched it in Portuguese. Not the Portugal Portuguese, but the Brazilian Portuguese, because the Portugal Portuguese kind of is like a meme in and of itself. And the Portugal Portuguese dub of Dragon Ball is sort of like Dragon Ball Z abridged, while being like it went on TV. And that's kind of hilarious. But so those shows I don't really mind what language they're in. Naruto, after I started watching it subbed, it's impossible. I really can't take any of it seriously if it's in English. I really can't. But Naruto is also one of those shows I'm so familiar with that I don't even need the subtitles. Like, for certain shows that get more like pseudoscience-y or like super technical memory jumbery, like, I can't just not use the subs because there's a lot of terminology that I don't know. But with the Naruto stuff, that's all shinobi things and jutsu and stuff like that, I've got enough knowledge of Japanese, and I've got enough knowledge of the Naruto mumbo jumbo things that allow me to watch that without even needing the subs. But I can't with it in English. I really can't. One that I don't mind, but I would still choose the sub over the dub, is Bleach. I really like the guy that does Ichigo as a voice guy, so his name is Johnny Bosch, I think. Another, like, I know he's surrounded with a lot of controversy right now, but Vic Mignogna, I also really liked his voice roles. He did Broly in Dragon Ball, he did Tamaki in Ouran High School, he did Dark Mousy in an anime called DN Angel. So I did like a lot of his roles in the dubs, but that was way back when I was still only consuming dubs, basically. And turns out that one of my favourite Japanese voice actors, his name is Mamoru Miyano, is basically the Japanese version of Vic. Like, they have a lot of roles in common, basically, which I find kind of amusing. But yeah, there's a lot of shows I can't really watch subbed because I watched them first dubbed, and then there's like stuff in it that makes it harder for me to pick up the sub now, even though that was the original. So an example of this is Code Geass. So Code Geass is an anime that I really like, and I can't get myself to watch it subbed because a lot of the names and the protagonist name's Lelouch, then you have like a Cullen, then you have a Shirley, then you have Jeremiah, Cornelia, Euphemia. All these names are very Anglican, they're very British almost, except Lelouch sounds more like something not like a name, but anyway, like, there's, and then they're like the names of their device, like the robots. You have the Lancelot, you have the Gurren, you have all these other ones. There's a couple that are Japanese, like the Shinkiro, and then things to do with the like there's a couple names that are Japanese, but there's so much of it that is so prominent that's in English that when I watch it subbed after having seen it dubbed, like it's kind of distracting because of the way that they pronounce all these like Anglican sounding names after I've heard them like in their Anglican sounding way. So I have a hard time watching that one subbed. Another one that I also have a hard time watching subbed is this one's called Beck Mongolian Chop Squat, and it's, I don't know when it came out, it's like late 2000s probably, and it's about this kid starting like or joining like a punk band or whatever. But other characters from that show spent a while living in the States, so they're Japanese Americans basically in Japan. So in the series, they like to themselves they like speak good Japanese, but they're better at English, and it didn't like in. It makes more sense contextually for it to all be in Japanese and then you have their bits in English. In the dub, it's all just straight up English, which, you know, kind of ruins the immersion. But at the same time, in the sub, in the original, their English is really accented and I can't take it seriously. Like, I find it very distracting when you have all this stuff happening. I also really enjoyed the voice acting and the English versions of the song and stuff like that. I think the guy who did the protagonist, his name is Greg Ayres, and he's got a pretty good singing voice, and I have very fond memories of the first time I was watching that show. I was the same age as the protagonist, I think it was like around 14, and I watched the dub at the time because that was what I found first, and so I didn't really like feel like just searching more to find the sub because, oh, this show looks interesting, let's just watch it, and the dub came out first, so the dub is what I watched. But so the first time, like this kid in the story, this kid's trying to be a guitar player, but turns out he can actually sing. And so the first time I heard him sing, in the context of the story, it was supposed to be like this kind of mind-blowing thing. And in my perception as the audience member, I actually was kind of like really impressed by how his voice sounded and how the song worked and all that kind of stuff. But then when I tried to watch it subbed, like it didn't have the same impact. Like it didn't feel like that, wow, this kid should actually really be a singer kind of thing. So that's another show that I really rather watch dubbed over sub, but those are like the only exceptions. All other opportunities I would much rather watch the sub to the dub. And if I am watching the dub, I would rather it be a Funimation dub. I know that there's like a new studio, and I don't know any of like the voice actors because it's like a newer studio. Like it's the people that do all the Netflix dubs. So people who did like the Attack on Titan dub, and the people who do the Sword Art Online dub, all that. Like I don't know many things about them, and like I kind of feel very neutral. Like it's not like it's bad. I think these are the same people that did the Hunter x Hunter one actually, which I need to research, but I don't think it's like necessarily bad. It's just not particularly good, and I would just rather watch the sub over that. I've got one more funny story involving like voice acting with an anime. So there's this voice actor, and I don't know his name, but he's done like he did the I think he did Kirito. He also did not Kirito. I mean, he did what's his face, Jaeger, the protagonist from Attack on Titan, but he also did in this other anime called Diabolic Lovers, he did this character called Kanato, who's like a super sadistic kind of, I don't know if he's a yandere or just like a sadistic maniac, but the thing is that he's like 17 but he looks like he's 8, and he's got like this little teddy bear, and he's supposed to be a vampire, so he's like really creepy, and he talks to the teddy bear while he's trying to like intimidate the female protagonist or whatever, so he's always going like, nah, daddy, and it's super cringy but creepy and annoying. So this voice actor is like super, or not maybe now anymore, but like 2 years ago he was like everywhere, and I really can't listen to him without listening to his version of that character Kanato going like, nah, daddy. And so I hear him doing Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan. He's trying like, oh, I gotta kill all the Titans, oh, I gotta defend this, oh, I gotta find out what's up, oh, Mikasa, whatever, and I just can't stop like hearing in my mind his voice just going, nah, daddy, all creepy, and it's just like, voices are really powerful. I think they're very, very powerful, and like music is also very powerful, but the way that we can like recognize other people's voices and the way like that they can tell stories. And also, here's the biggest thing that I see between dubs and subs. In Japan and Korea, and I think also probably China, there's like this huge market of like voice acting. So you have all these like super talented people who are trained in acting, but just with their voice, not like with their face or the gestures, the body language and stuff like that. So they're very, very like talented actors first with their voice. And you see a lot of that with like the people who work in Funimation and stuff like that. But you see that less when they're like desperate to get people near the areas where they have these studios to do these dubbed works. So I just find that in general, subs can be better than dubs because there's just a larger pool of like actors that work in this medium in the places that these things are produced. Like there's very few like dedicated, very talented voice actors in the Western world, in America primarily, compared to the amount that there are in like Japan and Korea. Is what I think. Like there's definitely very, 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 very talented actors in the Americas as well, but they're not dedicated to doing animated stories, and even less so trying to like do a translation of an animated story coming from somewhere else. So I just think that is just better executed when it's the original actors and in the culture that it's come from. And yeah, that's, and also like translation things, like the original source material was in that language, and for it to be performed in that language also like translate better for like jokes and the way the phrases work and all that. But anyway, I just like wanted to talk about this while I was showcasing this speed paint that took 6 hours. Let me know what you think. Do you watch your shows subbed or dubbed? Let me know what you think of this artwork. Follow DarkPetal16 on fanfiction so you can get notifications for when this story comes out and all that, and I'll see you all next week.